Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Andrew Donovan. This week, the Onondaga County Executive announced the name for the aquarium going up in Syracuse's Inner Harbor and faced criticism by legislators for the way he's funding the project. Joining me to talk about the aquarium, to talk about McMahon, and to talk about the State of the County address he recently delivered is the Onondaga County Executive, Ryan McMahon. Welcome back to Newsmakers.
Andrew, it's good to be back.
I always appreciate the time you make for us. So the aquarium will be called Harbor View Aquarium, and you give students credit for coming up with that name.
Yeah, one of the things that when you're going through this process and you're trying to name a venue, you know, we thought that the proper channel was to get the kids involved. This is for the kids, this is for families. Certainly we did that. We had a call to action from schools and school districts and superintendents, and then we got a lot of names, and then the marketing teams went through some of the names, and really the final name, the Harbor View Aquarium, was done by a family, the Coffee family, with a family of 10 children, and 2 of the little ones. We were at their school this week, so it was great.
Any other names that were in the top contention?
Yeah, I think the runner-up kind of had the Salt City theme, the Salt City Aquarium. I think we saw a lot of that, Salt City, Onondaga, Syracuse, whatnot. But if you think about our branding with the Lakeview Amphitheater on the lake, the harbor being a tributary to the lake, Harbor View, Lakeview, there's a lot of synergies there. So, you know, it was great to see the kindergartner and the first grader that helped get it done.
There were some SpongeBob suggestions.
There's
too?
a lot of Bikini Bottom type themed names, but certainly that, you know, more appropriate to stick to the harbor itself.
Does Andrew McMahon watch SpongeBob?
Andrew McMahon, Jack McMahon used to be a huge SpongeBob guy. Andrew, a little bit more into sports at his young age, having the bigger brother.
Got it. So that won't always be the exclusive name, right? Because as we saw with the amphitheater, at some point you're able to add a fill-in-the-blank company's name if they become the naming sponsor.
Yeah, if you think of the Lakeview Amphitheater, you have the Empower Federal Credit Union Amphitheater at Lakeview. And so certainly you could have the Andrew Donovan Aquarium at Harbor View. So these are all opportunities for you.
I don't have the budget I think that you're looking for, but
yeah.
We'll be in touch. Also, here on Newsmakers, you're ready to announce a new species that you're going to put into the aquarium.
Yeah, so we've talked about how we're going to have piranhas and we're going to have these garden eels, the tiger shark, but one of our 10,000-gallon interactive exhibits for everyone to be able to interact with will be with stingrays, the Atlantic stingray and the unique cow nose stingray. So this is going to be a space where a very large tank where everybody can come, interact, touch and feel the stingrays like you do in other aquariums across the country, a saltwater exhibit.
How did the cow nose stingray get its name?
Look, I don't pretend to be the expert on this, but I hear the nose actually looks like a cow's.
And interactive is key word. These won't just be animals in a glass-blocked tank. Interactive means you can touch them.
You're going to be able to sit there and touch these and engage with these right there, right then.
What's the process like to pick out all of these animals and these aquatic species, knowing that there is some pressure to get it right so that you continually attract crowds?
It goes back to the design. So the team that CNS engineers designed it with an expert that helped design the Georgia Aquarium and aquariums around the world. In those designs, they know where the market trends are, and then you build out those types of tanks for the animal and marine life that people want to see. And so that's really when it started. Zooceanarium, who's going to be operating it, obviously had a lot of input related to that as well. And people are going to be excited. We'll have more announcements as we get closer because this is going to be open later this summer.
Do you feel pressure to get it right, knowing the criticism that's been thrown at the project, knowing the money spent, and knowing that for it to succeed, it will need repeat visitors locally and from out of town?
Yeah, we have known that it only works at a certain scale to meet our goals for it to be a true community asset, a tourism asset. But if you're going to invest that amount of money, that you have to have certainly the tanks, the species, the marine life that is going to draw people here from outside the area and capture spending here. So we're pretty confident that people are going to like the product that they're going to get.
I'm not sure that you've been criticized about anything else more than the aquarium project. And I just wonder, is the success of that project going to be tied to your legacy? I know you're not ready to give up anytime soon, and legacy is something people like to kick down the road, but I mean, so goes the aquarium, so goes Ryan McMahon, perhaps.
Yeah, I think probably Micron more than that. Certainly the largest investment in the history of the country wouldn't have happened without our administration, and that's a hard stop. And so but
my
with
point
this
would
project,
be not a lot of criticism with Micron.
Yeah, well, it's easy. Look, it's the same vision, right? There was criticism. The same people that didn't support Micron are the same people that didn't support the aquarium. And so I think overall, when you look at it, to be a growing community, you need to be bold. You need to continue to invest back in yourself. You need to change the psychology here. The greatest memory technology company in the world saw that as they're choosing communities. And certainly, I think this is a piece of that. It's funny, Andrew. We are filming the videos right now for the 10-year anniversary of the Lakeview Amphitheater. And I can tell you, being the chairman of the legislature during that process, they were similar. A lot of people were saying, you don't need an amphitheater. It's never going to succeed. The mistake on the lake. 10 years later, nobody has a bad thing to say about the amphitheater. So I think the two are very similar in the political process and some of the criticism, and I know the two will be similar with the success that both venues will have.
So much of your drive to get the project, the aquarium, finished is the fact that it's going to be an asset for Micron to recruit using. Is Micron one of these possible donors? I haven't heard their name associated yet with money for the aquarium.
Yeah, so we unveiled this week with permission, because these are donors that have donated money to a foundation, not to the County of Onondaga, the three first sponsors, two family foundations, the Thorpe Family Foundation and then the Allen Family Foundation, and Amazon being a sponsor as well. We have other family foundations that are doing tanks. They want to have their own events closer to opening day. And then we have donors that some of them have gone online and donated, right? I don't know who they all are, but like anything, when a nonprofit, whether it's a local newspaper, which is a nonprofit, or a local radio station, or a nonprofit TV station, people can donate to nonprofits, and you can't just say who donated without their permission. Some people like the fanfare, some people don't. This week, for example, at the memorial in Tipperary Hill for our heroes, Officer Jensen and Lieutenant Husak, they had an anonymous donor give $15,000 that Janice McKenna talked about in her speech to help get it done. That donor didn't want any fanfare. These donors exist. Unfortunately, like anything, when we say we won't use new local tax dollars back in 2023 or whenever it was to the legislature at the time, we did say that we were going to reappropriate old monies. We were going to raise money. We're going to ask for private donations. We've did everything we said we were going to do. There's been no new local tax dollars into this outside of the initial $85 million.
Well, let's talk specifically about what the Democratic legislators accused you of this week, and that's not being transparent about aquarium funding. Specifically spurred on this, $5.7 million that was reallocated from is it a board? Is that the right thing to call it?
Yeah. So let me explain that process, because it wasn't well reported by the written media. In 2025, which was last summer, the Soundstage Board, which had legacy assets from a sale of a piece of real estate that board received for $1, sold it for $6 million to Saab.
That's the old film hub that Governor Cuomo built in the town of DeWitt that was transferred to Onondaga County for the $1.
The Soundstage, right? A development corporation that governments create. I wasn't county executive when that was created. They sold that asset for $5.9 million. Saab's now creating jobs, making products there. After years, the Soundstage Board wanted to dissolve. And they looked, and they have to reinvest the funds into the film industry. At the same time, we had announced an economic partnership with the film industry at the aquarium, including an animation, a $1.8 million animation with Monty Young at the aquarium as soon as it was built. We had a construction gap. There's no film at the aquarium without an aquarium. The Soundstage, in a publicly noticed meeting to both the media and all government elected officials or anybody, voted and disclosed their donation in August of 2025. The Soundstage then did financials and disclosed their donation again earlier this year. The legislature at the time was different than it is now. Fast forward into 2026, you have a new legislature. The comptroller told them about it. They said they should have been notified. They had every opportunity to go to the same meeting that everyone else did in 2025. They asked the Aquarium Foundation, a separate 501c3, saying, you should have told us about this. The Aquarium Foundation did not have approval, but the soundstage had already disclosed it. So it's a little bit of semantics. I understand the confusion. It's very confusing. The reality is there's an economic partnership with the film industry. The dollars that the soundstage spent had to go into the film industry. They did, and then that was done in 2025, not 2026.
Did you have a role, or did your office have a role in encouraging the soundstage board to put that money toward the aquarium?
The pitch came from the film office and other key stakeholders in the film industry. You couldn't just give it to one movie producer or another. It had to support the whole ecosystem, and that's what it did.
Should the legislature have any say where that money should have gone?
No, it's not their money.
It's the board's.
It's the board's money. Yeah.
And are you sick of the controversy, the constant asking about funding?
Well, it's funny. So from capital projects, Andrew, you know we're a big government. We've done probably 40 capital projects since this one. Every one of them has come over budget. Every one of them, because of inflation and costs that you can't control. It's funny that this one gets treated so differently than every other one that we've gone through. And so I think what you've seen is that you have politicians who have politicized this. Anytime you do something big, people are going to have an opinion. We appreciate that. But the people politicizing this now, saying they weren't told about this, they weren't in charge in 2025. They weren't elected officials in 2025. So it's a little bit of Monday morning quarterbacking at the expense of the Aquarium Foundation, who are volunteers who are trying to raise money so that kids can have programming at the aquarium and that poor kids can go to the aquarium.
Is there a way to just tamp all this down? Could you meet with these legislators more often directly and say, here's my plan, here's where I know money's coming from, where it's going? Is there a way everyone could just play a little nicer in the sandbox?
Well, I think this is politics overall, and I think I don't raise the money, okay? A separate foundation raises the money. Certainly if we're talking about somebody who's gonna put their name on the building, I'm gonna take my time and talk to those types of companies. But there's day-to-day activities being done by volunteers. They are not an arm of the county government.
5.7 million is a lot. That's one that maybe someone could have briefed the legislature on a little more specifically.
It was a public notice. Everybody had an opportunity to go. You could have gone, your news outlet was informed, the legislature was informed, it was disclosed.
All right, that's enough on the aquarium. We have a lot more to get to. Micron's the topic ahead when Newsmakers continues after this. Newsmakers is back. Our guest is the Onondaga County Executive, Ryan McMahon, who just recently gave his State of the County address. We'll talk about some of those issues, but Micron was a huge focus on the State of the County address. That campus is really moving along quickly.
Yeah, it's great. Right now, the first phase of construction has been completed. It was completed early. They're moving forward. The site is now grubbed. They're going to be bringing in a lot of fill to level off the site so that they can pour down foundations by the end of the year, and then certainly look for vertical construction of really, this campus is like a small city that will be built. And the infrastructure projects to support this, which will create thousands of jobs, our wastewater projects and the water projects, we will be awarding to the teams in May. So these teams will be assembled and construction will start, design will start. So overall, the construction boom that our community is going to see is starting to happen in 26, but 2027 is going to be off the charts.
To go to Route 31 and see across the White Pine Commerce Park, to see the power lines out there, I mean, to see how clear the site is really breathtaking.
Yeah, for those of you that have seen it, this was essentially a forest, right? And now you can see the sites that it will look like. Our supply chain efforts are working, Andrew. We announced the first supply chain partner, a Korean company, Wonik Materials, a specialty gas chemical company that will be coming into the community. That will be over a $100 million investment. Target Hospitality, a housing company that flows with big construction projects so that any construction workers from outside the area don't eat up local housing stock. They build these dorm type campuses. These are investments coming, and we have a lot more to come with that.
Where will Wonik build? Will that be near Micron?
It will be near Micron. Right now we're working with them on a little bit of a selection process to figure out what works best with them and works best with our strategy.
How fast is home construction coming along? I know you've made some progress. I know it's been a huge focus, but I'm just wondering, are you seeing the fruits of labor yet.
Yeah, we are. So right now, over 1,700 new units have been permitted in 2025. That's the best number we've had, more than double in the last decade. We think 26 will be the best year we've had. A lot of the tools we did to incentivize development to level off the cost for the builder, we're starting to see. We did come out with our Gen Z housing program to work with builders to focus in on cutting their cost of new construction on new single-family homes so that the generation that we potentially could lose for homeownership has a shot. We'll work on infrastructure and pay for infrastructure. If you build a product that's between $250,000 and $375,000, which is a significant discount for what a new construction home costs, between $500,000 and $650,000. So we're doing a lot to get this going. I think it's starting to work and see real dividends for the community.
Do you have any anxieties about something that is stuck or not moving as quickly as some of the other pieces?
Well, I think overall, at some point, we'd love to see home builders start to build on spec. Meaning that don't wait for Andrew Donovan to buy the house, build the house. He's going to come and start building the second, third, and fourth house. That's something that I think we got to get the building community to start looking at. But the market rate housing, on market rate apartments, 1,300 units and 25 that receive permits, that's starting to pick up. And big projects, right? These are big investments, again, big construction jobs for people, and all going to go in to help this economy.
So you want me to pay for naming rights for the aquarium and then buy a brand new house?
I do.
Okay, I'm going to struggle a little bit this year. All right, we'll take another break. More with the county executive after this. The Onondaga County executive is here. Another part of your State of the County address was kind of an alteration to an initial commitment, and that's the Jamesville jail actually staying open but becoming perhaps the sole jail for the county?
Yeah, we've always reserved the right to pivot on a strategy if we think there's a new opportunity. And with Micron coming, the semiconductor industry coming here in a big way, there's going to be high demand in downtown. So we're going to work with the sheriff, put together a group. We need one jail. I thought the jail should be downtown. Maybe I'm wrong. And so the sheriff and I are going to work together. We're going to study what it's like to build downtown compared to adding on his office out in Jamesville and potentially reconfiguring costs in Jamesville. If it's a close call, I think we then move to have the one jail at Jamesville, and we look to not only sell the jail, but also sell the sheriff's building on State Street, the PSB building right now. We have a developer looking at that in due diligence. So if you can have the PSB building go to the private sector for something, you could look at a jail, you could look at the sheriff's building. State Street could become a new hub for convention center activity.
Would the old jail remain and become housing, or would they demolish an old jail? What do you do with an old jail that's happy?
Look, believe it or not, some of these old jails in other communities, you get really, really great architects and developers that will leave a lot of the existing pods in there, and whether they do housing or a hotel, a boutique, these things happen in other communities across the country. So certainly we think right now with all the innovation and high-tech manufacturing here, we're going to start seeing that type of innovation in the development community as well.
Somehow you've become the man of malls. I want to ask you about both of the malls that don't have as much activity as the open mall. What's up with Great Northern? I know you announced at the State of the County address, SUNY Upstate will have a major presence there, which we've heard from the developer. But are we talking another hospital down the road?
I think right now they're going to, I think you have the potential there, I wouldn't say hospital, but certainly emergency room services, other certainly primary care type services there. And you have a venue that they can grow in as demand happens. Upstate is working with the state of New York to get their certificate of need. That project hopefully will be going later on next year, probably mid-year next year. Hopefully we'll have a shovel in the ground there. But that's the anchor that project needs. And I think now that there's more clarity on that anchor likely happening, that will help the developer get some of the housing components going. Certainly I know you're going to talk Shoppingtown. Shoppingtown, we have an RFP on the street. We're going to get back proposals May 14th. Our team will review it. We think it's a great opportunity for similar town center type developments where you have housing, retail amenities, but we think there's opportunities for employers there too. And I think that was kind of missing in the previous proposal that did not work out. We have full site control, so whatever happens next is going to happen next.
Do you at this minute have full site control? I know a judge set a price, but has that transaction happened?
We gave a $2.5 million check to Benderson. They certainly have the right to appeal the judge and say they need more money, but Onondaga County Industrial Development Agency has full site control at Shoppingtown Mall.
All right, that's a big development. Thank you for sharing. We'll have a final word with the county executive after this. We have a final moment with the county executive. Since you were last here, there's been a lot of significant changes to your beloved Syracuse Orange basketball team. I'm wondering how you're feeling about the new athletic director and Jerry McNamara coming back.
I'm going to be meeting with the new athletic director. I hear very good things. I love his energy. I really got along well with John Wildhack. When I was a city councilor, I actually passed a resolution when Jerry McNamara took us through the Big East tournament, and we had them down in City Hall. I'm a huge fan of Jerry's. I've gotten to know him as an adult. His energy is something crazy, and his passion to win. I don't know if he loves winning more or hates losing more. I hate losing more than I love winning, but I really value that, and I think it's a great hire, and I'm glad that Syracuse University did it.
All right. Well, we appreciate the time today. We appreciate all the updates. You always make time for us and always at least to attempt to answer everyone's questions. So we thank you for that as always. That does it for Newsmakers. For all the hardworking people of News Channel 9, have a great weekend.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.